In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened on the 8th of August, 2023, during the afternoon of the first day of the Lahaina, West Maui fire. Now, this is the second episode in a series that I am doing that is going to break down everything that happened, both during the fire and after the fire, as West Maui lost communication with the outside world and descended into chaos. Now, at this stage, I started to grasp the magnitude of how large this fire actually was. I was standing on the shoreline near the Hyatt, and I used to go to the Hyatt fairly often. It was interesting that on this day, the penguins were acting a little bit strange, and it wasn't just a normal windy day. It seems like animals sometimes have a better idea than humans of what's going on during natural disasters. This is another shot of the Hyatt. You can get an idea of what the weather was like, and there was no power. We'd lost power at 5 a.m. and there was nothing but a backup generator going at the Hyatt. Now, you'll remember I went north from there and I went up to the Westin, and there was a lot of wind here. I played a little bit of this last time, but I just want you to listen to this eerie howl to get an idea of what the wind speeds were like. It's important to understand that it's always windy in Maui, pretty much. You get a little bit of peace in the morning, but that's about it. Being windy in Maui is normal, but it was windier on this day than it typically was. And some good evidence of that is the fact that old growth trees were blown over, that had been there a very long time. So here's another shot of that, and you can see there was cars driving up onto the sidewalk, which is ultimately what we had to do to get out of the resort area. Now, everything in the circle here at this intersection was as far as we could make it. Traffic was completely stopped, so we weren't going to go south on the road from there. I wanted to get more footage of the fire, so I went up into this double-gated private community. It's part of Kaanapali hillside. I did have permission to be there, and I got some footage from a couple of different vantage points. For anybody that needs to know, that circle there is Lahaina, which is what was on fire. An interesting thing here, you can see it's basically blue skies over to the east. There are some clouds around the West Maui Mountains. There's pretty much always clouds there, but it's pretty much a blue sky day aside from that. Now, as I pan over towards the ocean, normally you'd be looking right at Lanai, which is a neighboring island, but of course it's totally obstructed by black smoke on this day. And the arrows here are pointing to where the resorts are, which is where we just left, just to give you an idea of the vantage point here. Now, I'm going to show you one more time. So this is where I'm standing. It's on the edge of a gulch, which is kind of like a cliff that goes down into a valley area. And I am looking south towards Lahaina town, which is what's on fire. Here is some of the first clips that I took up there. You can start to see some of the flames, and there was actually a decent-sized crowd. I was not the only person who got the idea of going up to this area. A lot of us were observing and hearing explosions. There were propane tanks exploding on the ground, and there were various flashes of light, which we were kind of debating what it was and speculating a little bit, but it seemed like a lot of it was propane tanks, fuel tanks, that sort of thing. And at this stage, we had no cellular reception at all, so all we knew was what we saw, and people were kind of debating what was burning and what wasn't burning. I don't think even at this stage anybody really understood or appreciated that this was going to turn out to be the deadliest wildfire in over 100 years in the United States. I know a lot of us had felt, even before this happened, that proper preventative measures were not being taken. Here is a sign. This is a picture I took in a state that is not Hawaii. I never saw a sign like this in Hawaii. I could be wrong, there could be one somewhere, but I never saw prescribed burns. I never saw what I would have considered proper brush clearance. And this entire area used to be wet sugarcane farms. Now it's all dry grass. And I was just inspecting a house before all of this happened, and I was up to my chest in dry grass. And beneath my feet, it was old wood that was just dry wood. And I made the comment to my wife. I know I said this in a previous video, but I said, if there's ever a fire here, it's going to be catastrophic. And I was stunned when shortly after the fire, the governor went on TV to warn the world about climate change and about how you shouldn't get your news from social media, rather than to warn people about ensuring that you have power lines on poles that are not going to fall over when there's a little bit of wind, and to make sure there's prescribed burns if there needs to be prescribed burns, to make sure there's proper brush clearance, to make sure that the fire department has what they need, they're ready to go, they have water, to make sure that if you have the world's largest siren system, that you bloody use it if there's a problem, to make sure that the roads are clear and that whatever needs to be done in order to keep the residents safe should be done. My content's not political, it's not about that, but I think we can all agree that it would be better for the environment not to let an entire city burn to the ground. But anyway, guys, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to the chronological events of that day. So here is some last footage from the current vantage point, and I am now going to move to a different vantage point, which changes things quite a bit. I want to talk about the weather again. So here you can see that I don't want to call these water spouts because they're not full-on water spouts, but there's definitely some interesting wind action that's not typical going on this day. And it wasn't consistent. There was different wind in different places. Some places there wasn't much going on. I've been through many Atlantic hurricanes, as I know a lot of you guys are aware from my previous content, and it was certainly nothing like that. It was not like being in a full-on hurricane. You can see that the power lines are laying on the side of the mountain all the way this far north. I'm going to show another shot of one of these water spout little things, which again, not something that I typically would see, even though it's quite windy on an average day in Maui. And you can see the sun is quite low in the sky at this point. So here's another shot of those power lines that are laying on the side of the hill. And when I saw this, I said to my wife, we're not going to have power anytime soon, because all the way this far north, there's a bunch of power lines laying on the ground, and then everywhere south of here, they're on fire. So, you know, it's going to be some time. And at this stage, I was really starting to appreciate just how bad things had gotten. A guy actually walked past me when I was up on the mountain here, and he commented how pretty this looked and what a nice looking sunset it was, which is kind of ironic. I guess it was true. In future episodes, I will cover just how bad the situation with the power was, and more downed trees, as well as what it was like to be totally disconnected from the entire world and to be controlled by the government in bizarre ways that I never thought possible in the United States. Now, ever since this day, my life has been a complete disaster, chaotic mess. And that is a whole nother story to tell on a whole nother day. But the bottom line is I can only continue with this and tell this story with your support. And when I say your support, I mean follow me on all 4 platforms: YouTube, TikTok, X, and Rumble. I'm being censored on some of them sometimes, so this is the best way to ensure that you'll be able to see everything and hear everything I have to say. And if you can please share the content if you like it, like the content if you like it, comment on the content if you like it. All of these things help the algorithms. And of course, in December, not too many social media algorithms are looking for this. So your support is absolutely vital and absolutely appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please stay tuned, and I will see you soon.